Hey, what's up, familia? Welcome back to Don't Make Me Famous. And today we're going to get into something that I've been thinking about for a long time, and that's censorship in Puerto Rico, the way it's shaped our TV and film industry, and what it's done to Puerto Rican actors, past, present, and in the probable future. Now, when most people hear the word censorship, they picture something obvious, right? A government banning a book, a red pen through a script, some guy in a suit saying that you can't say something on television. But in Puerto Rico, censorship has never been loud. It's actually been quiet, and it's worn a lot of different masks. Colonial laws, the Catholic Church, no shade, don't come for me, Catholics. Hollywood casting directors, and now, weirdly enough, a streaming algorithm that's deciding whether or not your story is marketable enough to greenlight. So, do me a favor, right? Think about the last time a Puerto Rican movie you actually watched, right? Think about that. And that was like not shot in Puerto Rico, like a Puerto Rican movie made about us. Got one? Probably few and far between, right? Now, was it a rom-com, a sci-fi thing, a superhero origin story? Probably not, maybe with a couple exceptions, right? It was probably a drama about migration, about the dysphoria, about poverty, about the political status. And that's not a coincidence. It's not because Puerto Ricans don't want to make a space opera. I would love that. It's because what does make it to the screen is just as important as what does. I'm sorry, or I should say, what doesn't make it to the screen is just as important as what does. And somebody or something is always deciding which is which. So when you hear the word censorship, what's the first image that pops into your head? Is it a person, a law, a vibe? So let's rewind to 1898. The US takes Puerto Rico, and almost overnight, Hollywood floods the island. Theaters everywhere, American films became the default. The way kids learn what a kiss looks like, what a family looks like, what a hero looks like. And our logical filmmakers, they're working with a fraction of the money, a fraction of the equipment, and on top of that, they're forced to operate inside an American moral code that wasn't written for us, the Hays Code. So early Puerto Rican cinema ends up looking like Hollywood with a Spanish dub. Not because our directors weren't talented either. They were brilliant, but because the system would literally not fund anything else. The point I want to land is that this is the sneakiest kind of censorship, right? It's not somebody saying, you can't make this. It's somebody saying, sure, make whatever you want, as long as it looks like this. Do you think audiences back then realized that they were seeing themselves through someone else's lens? Or just felt like that's what movies are? A lot of us, I would imagine. Where do you still see that lens today in casting, scripts, and marketing? Okay, this part always gets people. Between 1948 and 1957, we had something basically called Law 53, La 53. But everybody knows it as La Ley de Moldaza, the Gag Law. Right? So under that law, owning a Puerto Rican flag could get your ass arrested, killed, or otherwise. Singing a patriotic song could get you arrested. Writing a poem about independence can get you arrested. And we're talking about up to like 10 years in prison for what's basically expression. Now, picture you're an actor in San Juan in 1952. A director hands you a script with a nationalist character in it, right? Even reading the script in your living room could have been some type of evidence against you. So what do? You say no or you say yes. And you live looking over your shoulder. The law didn't just silence politicians, it killed entire genres before they could even be born. Nationalist cinema, revolutionary theater, even community street performances, all of it had to go under that. All of it had to go. Here's what people don't talk about. The Gag Law was repealed in 1957, but fear basically has a long memory, as you know. The artists who lived through it and basically taught the next generation that it wasn't safe to say and do certain things. And that's what the next generation taught the one after them. So even today, you can find Puerto Rican artists who, without realizing it, are basically self-censoring. It's like a softening of a line, choosing a safer project, picking a metaphor over a direct statement. If you were born in the 1950s and you were an actor, you would take on would you take on a nationalist role? Like, what's that calculation in your head? Like, do you think that fear still echoes in Puerto Rican artists today, or have we genuinely like shaken it off? So running right alongside all of this, the Catholic Church, right? Which on an island that's historically really Catholic, had enormous say over what showed up on screen. Sex, forget it, off the table. A character openly questioning authority, eh, risky, maybe. Poverty, migration, addiction, the actual stuff that people were living, too political. So a lot of mid-century Puerto Rican films ended up looking weirdly clean, family friendly, wholesome. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's also kind of dishonest, stripped of like that texture of real life, what makes us us. And meanwhile, this is the flip side. Puerto Rican actors who went to the mainland, like Rita Moreno, weren't getting censored by the church. They were getting censored by the script. Rita has spoken publicly about this, about being handed the same role over and over for decades. The Spitfire, the maid, the fiery Latina, the gang girlfriend. She literally won the Oscar for West Side Story in 1962 and then waited 7 years to be offered another good film role. So think about that. Oscar winning actress, 7 years? Because the only roles Hollywood could imagine for her were variations of the same stereotype. That's corny. That's a different kind of censorship. It's not a banning of your voice, it's a shrinking of your humanity. One note, and they're asking you to play it on repeat. Why do you think audiences ate those up for so long without like pushing back? What's a Puerto Rican character on screen who's actually felt three-dimensional, like a real person, not a costume? Something to think about. But here's where the story actually gets kind of fun. Because Puerto Rican filmmakers, when they couldn't go through the wall, they went around it. So we had a guy called Jacobo Morales. He's a really good example. His film Lo que le pasó a Santiago from 1989 is on the surface kind of quiet, right? Like it's a little tender movie about a retired widower who falls in love, beautiful, unconscious, you know. But underneath it, it's loaded with like commentary about colonialism, identity, what it means to be a person on the island that doesn't fully belong to itself, right? The film became the first, and it's still the only Puerto Rican movie that was ever nominated for the Best International Feature Oscar. And actors learned to do the same thing. They'd give what I think of as a double performance, or un doble sentido. One layer for the censor and or the studio note, the surface meaning, the safe meaning, and another layer underneath for the Puerto Rican audience to actually grasp. They knew what was actually being said. It was sort of like an inside joke between the screen and the people watching it, right? So except the stakes weren't a joke at all. So do you think that censorship made cinema more creative, force us to be more clever, or did it just rob us of films we'll never get to have seen? If you were sitting in a theater in 1989, do you think you would have caught the double meanings, or you only see them in retrospect? Like, so a lot of Puerto Rican actors understandably leave the island. They go to New York, LA. Believe me, I understand. They chase the bigger industry, and they walk straight into different kinds of cages, Rita Moreno, I'm sorry, Rita Moreno. Put some respect on her name. The GOAT, Raúl Juliá. The other GOAT, Benicio del Toro. The other GOAT, Rosie Perez. And everybody's Theo, Luis Guzman. Theo, call me, man. Every single one of them, right, at some point talked about being typecast. You can work, sure. You can absolutely work. As long as you're willing to be the maid, the gang member, the cartel guy, the exotic love interest, step outside the lane and it seems like offers dry up. And yet, they pushed. Raul Julia played Gomez Adams, played Macbeth, played Simon Bolivar. He refused to be flattened. Lin-Manuel Miranda came along and basically rewrote those stories to get to be the big Broadway musical with In the Heights and Hamilton. You know how many tears that got out of me? Benicio del Toro won an Oscar playing roles that had nothing to do with the stereotype. Rosario Dawson, Aubrey Plaza, Joaquin Cosio. These careers exist because somebody refused the cage. And now we're in a moment where Bad Bunny is sliding from music into film. He's caught stealing. He was caught. He was then caught stealing. He was in Happy Gilmore 2, and he's about to lead another movie called Puerto Rico. Which, don't get me started, because the governor of the island is making it impossible, to the fact that to the point where they have to go to DR to film, which is, thank God for our Dominican brothers and sisters, but you'd think that they would let you film at home, but it's whatever. And it's basically like from what I understand, it's a Caribbean epic directed by Residente, Calle 13, my dog, with Javier Bardem, Edward Norton, and Viggo Mortensen alongside, right? So think about that lineup. A Puerto Rican rapper leading a film with two Oscar winners. That doesn't happen in 1985. Shout out to 1985. It barely happens in 2015. The door was cracked open, but, and this is the but, for every Bad Bunny or Lin-Manuel Miranda, there are dozens of working actors who still get sent the same three auditions. cartel henchman, heartbroken mom, tropical girlfriend, same shit. So does the dysphoria break up censorship, or does it trade one set of bars for a nicer looking set? So in 2026, where are we? Political censorship in the old sense? Maybe. A law that throws you in jail for waving a flag? Yeah, that's gone for now. Maybe. But censorship doesn't disappear, it mutates. The new gatekeeper, right, isn't a censor, it's a spreadsheet. Studios and streamers, they ask one question: will the story sell? And specifically, will it sell to a US audience that doesn't know about Puerto Rico in the sense that we know it? So Puerto Rican stories get sanded down, they get watered down, they get whitewashed. Specificities get cut. Spanish gets reduced. The texture that made that story actually Puerto Rican, that's often the first thing that goes on the chopping block, right? On the bright side, streaming has cracked the gate wide open. La Pecera, oh my God, with Glorimal Marrero, you know, a film about a woman returning to a contaminated Vieques. Look up Vieques. Came out in 2023. It got into Sundance. It became Puerto Rico's submission to the Best International Feature Oscar. And then it became the first Puerto Rican film that was ever nominated for a Goya in Spain. None of that infrastructure existed for our filmmakers about a generation ago. Production-wise, the island is also more active than ever. The real estate tax incentive that was pulling money for shoots to Puerto Rico. Rosalyn Sanchez is leading Fox's Fantasy Island reboot. I hope it works because she's awesome. A great voice. Shot on the island, right? The Puerto Rican Film Festival in Mayagüez is still running. Something is genuinely building. The recent addition to this would be Melao with Val Vega. I made a video about that earlier in the month. Again, one of the most impactful movies, short films that I have seen in a very, very long time. And I stand by this by 100-fold. But we still have to ask the obvious question: where's our sci-fi? Where's our rom-com? I got one for you coming, by the way. Where's the Puerto Rican fantasy epic with dragons and jibaros? When every Puerto Rican story that gets greenlit is about pain or politics, that's also kind of a censorship, you know? A quiet decision that we're only allowed to be serious. We're not allowed to be silly or weird or magical or futuristic. Who decided that? How do we change it? So is the algorithm a new kind of censorship, or just maybe a new kind of mirror? I love to ask, what's a Puerto Rican movie that you want to see that doesn't exist yet? You know, be specific about a vibe, a genre, who's in it, things that you would love to see. So here's where I've landed. Censorship has been a constant companion to us, Puerto Rican actors. A really clingy one at that. Like one that doesn't know how to say no, or one that keeps coming back. Sometimes it was the law, right? Sometimes it was a priest. Sometimes it was a studio. And now it's a fucking algorithm and the marketing department. So what's that mean for actors specifically? It means it's a lifetime of negotiation. How much of myself can I bring to this role before it costs me the part? How much truth before it costs me my safety? How much of my accent before it costs me the next audition? But, and I really do mean this, did censorship really kill Puerto Rican creativity? Hmm, I don't know. I think it might have sharpened it for real, for real. It taught us how to layer a performance, how to load a metaphor, how to say two things at once, un doble sentido. We got resourceful because we had to. And now with Puerto Rican voices breaking through globally in music, film, Broadway, streaming, the new Wild West. The real question is, will we get to tell our stories? The question is, what's the next mask that censorship is going to wear? And where are we going to and are we going to recognize it? Puerto Rican stories deserve to be heard in full color, untranslated, unapologetic, uncensored, unfucking censored. Because if we don't tell our own stories, somebody else is going to do it for us. And they're going to censor all of us all over again, just with better lighting, maybe. Thank you for listening. If this got you thinking, share it with somebody who needs to hear it. Until next time, I love you all. Échale.